Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is Taxes FAQ, and I'm Kyle Dugan of Jupiter Tax LLC, located here in Jupiter, Florida. My main website is jupitertaxprep.com, and my phone number, 561-247-5876. And here's a question that I've gotten recently because, well, it is sort of the end of the year. As I'm recording this, it is December 22nd, so we're past the November 3rd election, and people are wondering how will, whoever is the next president, how will that affect my taxes and just in general my financial plan? Just in case you're not keeping up with current events, the Associated Press called the election for the Biden-Harris administration. I should say Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But Joe Biden was named the president-elect. Let's see, what was that? On the night of November 3rd? They were calling it fairly early, as I recall. And then since then, there have been a number of legal challenges. There have been a number of videos on social media. There have been a number of reports of irregularities. The outcome is unclear at this moment. I think if you're watching CNN, MSNBC, they're making the claim that there's absolutely no voter fraud that would affect the election. Or no, wait, do they say there's... Sometimes I can't keep up with what they're claiming, or what I should say what they're speculating. The Electoral College voted. We won't know those votes until January 6th. So we will see if the Electoral College voted in line with each state's election. Well, time will tell. In summary, time will tell. So one of these guys, Trump or Biden, will be inaugurated on January 20th. And I think people are wondering if they can make some steps now at the end of the year or at the beginning of 2021 to mitigate damages and losses, or to make a plan to add income, add wealth. So let's see, let's start with Trump first. So if he is inaugurated on the 20th of January, I think you'll see more of what he did over the last 4 years. I think he's going to focus on jobs. This whole pandemic, recession, just this general stagnation, decline at the end of the year, I think he's going to try to get us out of as quickly as possible. I think he's going to focus on jobs. I think he's going to hammer China. He'll probably talk about draining the swamp some more, which I think we all know those people are in there in bureaucracy. We all have worked in companies where there are people that just don't seem to do anything and they still get by. So wherever you work, I'm sure those people are in, and that's not really who the swamp is. But anyway, so I guess vaguely speaking, he's going to focus on growth. And I think he's going to come from the standpoint or viewpoint that a high tide raises all boats. So he's going to try to get as many people back to making money and increasing GDP as soon as possible. And let's see, Biden. Biden didn't talk a lot during the election about his plan, but then he didn't really talk a lot about anything. So what he did mention on taxes, he did claim that he won't raise taxes for anybody making under $400,000. But he also said he was going to get rid of the Trump tax cuts. So he can't I don't know, maybe on some weird technicality, in you and I's world, if he gets rid of the Trump tax cuts, that will increase a lot of people's taxes just by getting rid of the tax cuts. So even if you make less than $400,000, if those tax cuts are eliminated, your taxes will likely go up. Anybody that was affected by the SALT changes, SALT, which is your sales tax, property tax, those people are probably upset with Trump because they were in a position where they paid a lot of property tax, and their property taxes, what they could claim, was limited. So if you paid $30,000 in property tax to the state of, well, you wouldn't pay it to the state of California, but to your local jurisdiction, you weren't able to claim that on your federal taxes. So some people will be happy if that is done away with. But eliminating those tax cuts also would cause the corporate tax rate to increase from what it is now, because part of those tax cuts lowered the corporate tax rate, and they also lowered taxes on pass-through entities. So eliminating those tax cuts would put the corporate tax rate back up to what it was, which, and I'm obviously speculating, but I would guess that it would cause prices to increase, because they're going to feel like the tax rate is increasing on them. And then I know that there was some talk of what's in people's 401ks. In 401ks, 403bs, there's a bunch of tax-deferred retirement plans, accounts that people have, where it's a bunch of money sitting in accounts that haven't been taxed yet by the federal government or the state governments. I know that there was talk of sort of putting people in a position where they had to start exercising some of those, and then they're going to start paying taxes on those. So it was similar to a required minimum distribution that people hit when they're 70 and a half, well now 72, so depending on where that goes. So while he said he won't raise taxes, I think that he's going to raise taxes. He's indirectly going to raise taxes if he talks about doing, or if he does everything he's talked about doing. But then again, there's not a lot of information about what his plan is. I think a lot of the election was Trump-centered, either like pro-Trump or anti-Trump. I don't know that people that voted for Joe Biden were voting for Joe Biden or if they were just voting against Trump. And then, I don't know, some people may have just voted for Biden because they want a change, thinking that a change will end this maddening year that we find ourselves in of this pandemic. So anyway, it's hard to guide people on where to go as far as what they should plan for. But in general, taxes will probably go up.